And happy winter solstice. Today is the longest night of the year, which means it's the shortest day of the year. Yay. It only gets better from here. That's right. Well, today I want to introduce our speaker. Her name is Ann McCauley. And she is an EAP coordinator with Life Services EAP, and she's been providing services in the Middle Tennessee area for about the past 20 years. She holds a master's degree in education from Northeastern University in Boston and a master's degree in family studies from Mercer University in Macon, Georgia. And so I believe she's got a little topic today, I believe, is on financial wellness. So without further ado, Ann, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Peter. I recognize a few familiar faces. I've done quite a few trainings up here, and it's always makes me feel comfortable to see a few smiling faces that I've seen in the past. So, welcome. I always start my presentations with a brief little infomercial. I have EAP brochures out, so just remember that this is a great benefit that the city provides for all of you at no cost. It's a confidential counseling service. You get up to 8 visits per issue, and our services are absolutely confidential. We don't report back to anybody here at the city, not Shelley, not Peter, not the new mayor. If you use our services, no one will know unless you come back to work and tell them. So just don't forget that that's available to you. Well, it's that time of year again where in the hustle and bustle of the holidays, we begin to think about New Year's, and oftentimes we begin to think about what our resolutions are going to be, what kind of changes we want to make to become healthier, better people. And so your list of resolutions, or your one resolution, hopefully will be related to wellness. It might be, I'm going to start eating differently. It may be that I'm going to step up my exercise regimen, or I'm going to start an exercise regimen. It may be that you're going to work on your spiritual life. And I'm here today to talk about financial wellness and suggest that perhaps a very worthwhile New Year's resolution might be to look at money, look at the role that it plays in your life. Is it a cause of stress? And I'm here to sort of help you understand how you can get a handle on your relationship with your finances, reduce your stress over money issues. A couple of facts that might surprise you or may not. The number one reason for divorce in the United States today is money. That's the main reason, or the major reason why people get divorced. Of those people that carry a credit card balance, the average credit card balance is over $16,000. Okay? So most people are very much in debt. And finances are a huge, huge factor in our general stress level. Most of you have attended seminars before on stress. It takes a terrible toll on us physically and emotionally. So the number one reason that I think it's important to get a handle on our personal finances is because if we don't, the stress, the worry, and the concerns that it causes ultimately have a terrible effect on our body and our generalized health. I think we're beginning as a society to look at things much more holistically. And when we talk about health, we're just not talking about our heart rate or our cholesterol level. We're looking at how we are existing in the world holistically, our emotional health, our physical health, and our financial health. So we're going to look at finances as an important part of just taking care of yourselves and being generally healthy. If there is one thing that is grinding and discouraging and disheartening, it is to have debts and obligations that we cannot meet. Very, very profound. Proper money management and living within one's means are essential in today's world if we are going to live abundantly and happily. Okay? You all kind of buy that? Okay. It's not the amount of money that we have that is what is really important. It is the fact that we need to have control over the money that we have. Okay? So I'm not here to give you instructions or information on how you can make your paycheck bump you to the next level or help you buy a new house or how you can make your paycheck go further than it's going. Okay? What we're going to talk about today is understanding what your standard of living is and making concentrated efforts to live within your means. And many times that is what makes us happy. I've seen lots and lots of people who continue to move up the financial ladder. They acquire more and more and more. And ironically, they're less and less happy because they become obsessed with acquiring and having, and it doesn't bring true contentment or happiness. So today we're going to talk about what is my standard of living, how can I live within my means, not go into debt and be stressed about it, and be content, find contentment. I think it's important to understand that when we talk about financial wellness, we're not talking about getting out your calculators necessarily and punching in math numbers. Believe it or not, we all have a relationship with money that is very, very emotional, and it's not the same. Does that make sense? So I think one of the first steps that you have to take in order to get control of your finances is, what is my relationship with money like? What does that look like? And what were the factors that contributed to me having that kind of relationship with money? And we're going to do a quick little experiential exercise to sort of demonstrate what I'm talking about. Peter is going to randomly pass some lucky people in the audience today some found money. Don't everybody go hiding. All right, all you lucky people, do you mind standing up? Thank you, Peter. Okay, what I want you to do is, we'll go in line here and identify, let the crowd know how much money Peter was generously passing out to you, and if it were true money, what you would do with it. So we'll start here if you don't mind.
Peter gave me $500. I'm taking the finance later, but I would pay off. I have 3 medical bills. It's about almost $300, and put half in the rest in savings and Christmas money.
Thank you. You can sit down.
Hendersonville Parks. He gave me $1,000. Probably pay off. I bought Brian a Christmas present.
How kind of you.
Probably pay off some medical bills and the rest of the Christmas money, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
David, fire department, I got 50. Probably just,
You know what to say?
yeah, just spending money in my wallet, that's what
Okay. Spending money for you. Okay.
I'm Kathy in Codes. Peter gave me $2,000. The first $900 I would give to my dad, who is 90, and his property taxes are due. They are $900. I would probably keep $100 from that money and split the rest between my 2 kids.
Great. Thank you.
I'll try something with Public Works. I got 10 grand. I pay off both my credit cards and my little pickup truck. That's it.
Okay. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. So the purpose of that little exercise was to demonstrate that, people will look at money and do different things with it. Some of you, the first thing you thought of was being very generous and giving it away. Others of you felt like, I need to get out of debt. I'm going to use this money to get out of debt. Some people might have said, hey, I'm going to call Disney World and I'm taking my family to Disney World for New Year's. Okay? So we all have a different relationship with money. And that is based, I think, on two things. One are the messages that we got growing up about money, primarily from our parents. And I'm going to give you some examples. And the other is, I think advertising today has a huge impact on our relationship with money. So think about the family that you grew up in. Were you comfortable? Did your family struggle? Did you have lots of extras? And what was the message that your parents sent you about money? I grew up in a large family. I was the oldest of 7 kids. And my father's no longer with us, may he rest in peace. I don't think he would mind me telling this story, but finances were very, very tight many times. And I have vivid memories of once a month, my dad would put up a card table in the living room and he would be paying the bills. And that night we would all shudder and run to our rooms and not be seen, because he would get very, very distraught and upset. And, he was usually a fun, loving dad and very kind, but he would get very upset. And, he had a habit of, when he got angry, he would break a pencil and throw it across the room. Very uncharacteristic. So, as an adult, my money personality is, I'm a saver. I would rather save than spend. And it's not that I look at the amount. It's not a monetary amount that I feel like I'm striving for or that I have to have. My relationship with money is, money means security. Because as a child, I was scared to death that we weren't going to have enough money. Does that sort of make sense? So that message growing up had a profound effect on me, and the way I interpret it was, money is just security, and I have to always have some for the rainy day, or I have to be able to pay my bills every month. Almost to an extreme, so that there have been, instances where I'm very lucky that I'm married to a man who has a little bit healthier relationship with money than I do, and he encourages me to let go and enjoy things, like, it's okay, we don't have to put them in the bank, we can go down to the concert on 2nd Avenue Saturday night, so he sort of helped me develop a healthier relationship with money. There are other siblings in my family that heard the same message but interpreted it in a different way, and they're spenders, often to a fault. And so I think what they interpreted was, gosh, this anxiety about money isn't good. I'm going to buy something and I'm going to feel better. So many times I think we are looking at money and spending and buying new things to sort of self-medicate feelings, make bad feelings go away, make pain go away. So I would challenge you to think about the family that you grew up in, maybe the church that you grew up in, grandparents. What was the message that they sent to you about money, and how does that impact your relationship with money today and your own financial wellness? I mentioned advertising, and I'm a huge believer that advertising sends us some very, very strong subliminal messages. And so I was thumbing through a magazine and pulled some ads just to use this demonstration. This is an ad for some kind of beauty product. And the woman is 40, and the ad says, get 10 years back. Use this product and you're going to look 10 years younger. Don't you think it's hard for women today to resist that? And we are absolutely bombarded with these kind of messages. There are never enough hours in the day, so live in the moment. Living in the moment, what does that do to us financially? Breaks you, because it's like it's all about the pleasure now. Don't worry about saving. Don't worry about planning for retirement. Don't worry about putting money away for your kids for college. Live in the moment. Seize the day, okay? Here's one. Make fun of family tradition. Well, guess what the fun is? It's taking the whole family on a vacation on a cruise. Now, that sounds great. I think that's wonderful. I don't think I have anything wrong with taking your family on a cruise, but there are so many other ways that you can have family fun besides taking your family on a cruise. So we are bombarded by the media with those sorts of advertising messages, and I think that oftentimes they have an impression on us that we aren't quite aware of. Okay? Anybody got examples, or anybody want to share? I know money can be sort of a personal issue, but does anybody have an example of the messages they got or how they've been impacted? Okay, I'm the only one that's going to self-disclose today. That's fine. That's fine. So I also think there's this conventional wisdom, and I have written down a few of those conventional wisdom things because I think these, impact us too. The only thing that many people understand about money matters is that it does. How many have heard this? Money is the root of all evil. Y'all heard that? A penny saved is a penny earned. So that's a very strong message. Save your money. And this is one that I heard from my dad that was very, very confusing for me. God bless him. He really did send me a lot of messages that I have a hard time dealing with. And that is, many of you have probably heard this. You might have heard it in your church, because this comes from Scripture. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get to heaven. Anybody heard that? What do you think that means? If you have money, you're not going to make it to heaven?
It's actually about a small, narrow passage.
You're exactly right, Trace. But for people who are not that well versed or understand it, that could send a very powerful message to them that there's something wrong with having money. And there's not, as long as you have the proper relationship with it, as long as you control it and it doesn't control you. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So they're basically, I like to look at our relationships with money on a continuum. And on one end of the continuum are people who have absolutely no control of their money. They are in debt. They live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have an emergency fund. They don't know how they're going to make ends meet every month. On the other end of the continuum, there are people who, and I think this portion of our population is really shrinking, people who don't have any financial worries at all. They've either been very successful or they've inherited a lot of money, and their biggest money concerns is, where am I going to invest my money and what kind of return am I going to get at it? But I think as our world evolves, there are fewer people there and more people on the other end. And there are some people that kind of fall in the middle. They have a good relationship with money, they have control over their money, and they live within their means. They live within their means, which is so important. And, they have a comfortable lifestyle, but not an opulent lifestyle. So think for a minute about where you fall on that continuum. And, we think of a continuum as a line across, and you could fall anywhere on there. But think about where you fall. Are you comfortable with where you are? And do you want to change things? Everybody got a little bit of an idea of where they are? Okay. Anybody disagree with me that money is an emotionally laden issue? Does everybody kind of understand that? Okay. Because I think that's really important. So now that we know, the first step in gaining control over your money, I think, is looking at the big picture, trying to determine what your personal relationship with money is. And that will enable us to move to the next step, which is what are some of the practical ways that I can gain control of my money? And that may be why most of you came today. What do you think the number one instrument for financial stability is?
Income,
Nope. But that's very important.
expenses.
That's very important too. A budget. A budget is absolutely essential for having control and managing your money. Now, I'm not going to embarrass people by asking how many people in this room have a budget, because I do think that's very, very personal. But I found an article in the newspaper last week, and I was beginning to think about this training, and I cut it out. 56% of people do not operate on a budget. That's a majority. 56% of people don't operate on a budget. So if you are someone that wants to get control over your finances, who wants to get out of debt, who wants to have a safety net or a rainy day fund, the most important thing to do is look at a budget. And that's hard. That's very hard because it's very sobering and very, it's a reality check that many of us really don't want to take. So budgets are important, and this is in your handout. It helps prevent impulse spending. It's very helpful in helping you decide what you can afford and what you can't afford. It's essential for knowing where your money goes. It can help you increase your savings and your net worth and help you meet your financial objectives. Okay, so have I convinced you need a budget? So how do you determine a budget? The first thing you look at is what you earn, what your gross income is, and then you're going to look at what your monthly expenses are. And unfortunately, I think for some people, if they look at what they're spending every month, it is going to be more than what they're making. For some people, it's going to be about even. Some people will have a little bit of money left over. Okay? So, this is a great way to start out the new year is by sitting down. The only way to do it is sit down and put pen and paper together. And if you're married, I think it's very important to do this as a couple so that you're both on the same page. But it's not that hard. Okay? You're going to look at what your income is. And that can include what your salary is, if you get child support every month, if you have interest income from investments, that all goes into what your income is. And then you're going to look at what you spend every month and see how far on or off you are of being on budget. Okay? So we talk about, so we have fixed expenses that we all have every month. Okay? So when you sit down with your pen and paper, you're going to write down what your monthly bills are. Most of us have either a rent payment that we have to pay every month or a mortgage payment. That is fixed. That is not going to change. That is a fixed expense that we have every month. You may have a auto payment, a car payment. You may have a tuition expense for a child or medical expense for a child. You're going to list all those things, okay? And then you're going to look at what you spend in other areas, okay? Those aren't fixed. How much gas do you put in your car every month? How much do you spend at the grocery store every month? How much do you spend on entertainment? How much do you spend on your clothing, okay? And those areas are the areas that are going to be very important to look at because those are the expenses that you're going to be able to tweak and make changes in because they're not fixed. Okay? So my husband and I were trying to get a handle on our finances a couple of years ago when he moved to a job where he made less money. And he's not a real detailed budget person. And when we sat down and calculated what we spent in a month eating out, it was sobering. It's so much healthier and it's so much cheaper to eat at home, but it was an item that we weren't paying attention to. We were just eating out because it was convenient, it was easier than stopping at the grocery and picking something up to cook. But those are the kind of expenses that you can look at and you can make calculated changes about. Another big expenditure for a lot of people is Starbucks coffee. If you drink a Starbucks coffee, if you drink one every day of the week, do you have any idea what you spend? I mean, I like Starbucks coffee. I'm not dissing that, but if you are spending above your means, that is a way to be able to cut back and begin to live within your means. Okay. Any questions at all about this process and how you go about kind of get a handle on things? Okay. I've included in your handout some pages that I think would be really, really helpful. And there is a page that helps you keep a record of what you spend every week. And it lists things in very great detail. One system that people use is every time you spend money, save the receipt. That's the best or easiest way to keep track of everything. Some of the banks now, if you do all the online banking, you can go online and see, they kind of compile it for you and put amounts into categories. So you can go online and see what you paid to Macy's every month or what you spent on eating out every month. But another way to do it, if you don't have a computer or you're not that tech savvy, is to just keep your receipts and then add them up and fill this in. So tracking what you spend every month is a very basic step in establishing a budget and knowing what you can afford and what you can't afford. Okay. How many of you have heard of Dave Ramsey's program, Financial Peace? Okay, have any of you all taken that? That's a great program, and he has some very, very good suggestions. He believes in no credit card debt. The interest rates that you pay to carry credit is enormous, enormous. I have a relative who got in terrible, terrible financial problem because he had charged so much, he could barely make the interest payments every month. So he never did hit the principal. All he was doing was paying the interest, and it just about bankrupt him. So I think it's very important. So Dave says start with the smallest credit card amount that you have if you have numerous credit cards, and work very hard. Everything that you can save or have extra every month, pay off that credit card. And what does he say to do when the credit card's paid off? Cut it up, throw it away, don't use it again. Okay? So that's very, very important. Another suggestion that he has that I think really works, and it sounds very archaic, because even being out and about and shopping this Christmas, if I give somebody cash, they look at me like I'm a dinosaur. It's like, who uses cash anymore? But I truly believe that that system really works. And Dave suggests what he calls the envelope system. So you decide what you're going to have to spend for food every month. You take the cash and you put it in an envelope. It really does help you spend more wisely and spend more carefully. And, I certainly don't want anyone to ever go hungry or to let their children go hungry. But if you see that your grocery envelope is dwindling, you might be more careful when you go to Kroger or wherever you shop in the way you're spending money and what you're buying. You may have to, buy more beans or potatoes or whatever is going to stretch. But it just helps you think about things and not do things impulsively, not just throw things in your grocery basket as you're heading out to the checkout stand because it looks good, or you're in the mood for chocolate-covered donuts or something like that. So I think the envelope system is great. Some people do it with gas money. They put cash for gas in the envelope. It just helps you feel like you have a little bit more control. and you know where things are going. Okay? Anybody tried any of those? The envelope system, did it work?
Yeah, it worked, and so we did that for actually several years. And then what happened is, after you do that for quite some time, then you don't really need to do it because
You're thinking differently.
you're thinking differently.
So it really changes your mindset. So you're a believer in the envelope system. Good. That or a debit card, when you use a debit card, it's like cash. They're taking the money from your account. But charging things and putting things on credit is just, I think it's a huge part of why our country has gotten into so much economic trouble in recent years, is people are living beyond their means. And it looks like they're doing great. They're driving new cars and they're taking trips, but the reality is they are in debt up to their eyeballs, and it comes back to haunt you. Any other comments, or anybody have other systems of managing their money that work for you?
And kind of along the same lines as Keith, not only the envelope system for like going out and eating dinner, my wife and I personally used it for our honeymoon. So if you know you've got a vacation coming up in the next 3 or 4 months, take a little money out of each paycheck, put it in that envelope. That way, when you go on your vacation or whatever it is, you don't really have to dip into that, checking account.
Yeah.
So that just kind of piggyback off.
That's a great idea. It's like putting money in a piggy bank.
Yeah, because a lot of times a vacation's coming up. Vacations can get rather expensive, so that may help you kind of budget for the vacation, and may help out. I know it worked well for us.
Again, I think the bottom line of all this information is trying to move to a place where you have control over your personal finances, and that it is not controlling you. I think the peace and the contentment that come with living in your means is priceless, as they say. I think that's really priceless. So, I wonder sometimes for people who are so heavily in debt how they ever close their eyes at night, because how could they sleep peacefully, with that that's the kind of stress that money problems bring to all of us. And again, it's not just money, it takes a terrible physical toll on us. So,
I got something for you. I'm kind of concerned about identity theft a little bit.
yes,
Using my debit card continuously.
yes,
So we do use our credit card to kind of protect us. We feel like there's a,
more secure,
yeah, and I can dispute a charge.
yes.
And we don't carry a balance, but we pay it off at the end of the month. Is that?
That's perfect. That is not a problem whatsoever. And I agree with you. I do think debits aren't as secure as credits as long as you're in a position that you can pay it. My husband does that. He would not pay credit card interest if his life depended on it. But the key is, as long as you pay it off and you don't carry a balance, there's absolutely no problem with that at all. Yes?
I've got a rewards credit card, and I paid mine off each month, so I actually can make it.
Wow. So there's a huge incentive. Good. That's really good. Okay. I think that I don't want to sound like I'm being judgmental. Many of us get into debt for very, very legitimate reasons. Life happens. Those, I call them bolts from the blue happen, like medical issues that you have these unexpected expenses. So I'm not in any way being negative or demeaning of people who carry credit card debt. I think oftentimes we get there for very valid and legitimate reasons. What I'm trying to convey today is ways to get out of that kind of debt and way to change your spending habits. If you're in debt because you have to go to Las Vegas, twice a year, then yeah, I may be a little bit judgmental of that. If you can afford it, great. But I don't think those sorts of things are worth getting in debt for. So earn it and then spend it, I think, is a good rule of thumb. So I would encourage you to start the new year off with some plans to be increasing your financial wellness. We do have, as part of the EAP, it's a financial line. And you can call and get help with financial questions that you might have. You call the 1-800 number that you call for counseling and ask for a transfer to the financial line. They can help you with issues like, should I consolidate my credit cards? What can I do to, to set a budget? They can help you with budget setting. They can answer financial questions. They don't loan money, and they don't give investment advice. But if you are really struggling to get control and there are questions that you have or issues that you need assistance with, you can do that, and that's free. It's telephonic, but they'll be able to offer assistance with that. So I hope all of you have a fabulous holiday and get off to a good start in the new year. The last page of the handout is just some suggestions that I think can be helpful. Suggestions for basic financial fitness, and it's just got some real concrete things that you can do to sort of make a difference. I think sometimes in our society we've become so materialistic that our mindset is, I want what everybody else has, and we might look at a coworker that drives a new truck and wish we could afford one. And I think some of that's very normal, but I would also suggest that sometimes we all have so much that we take for granted, and so I often suggest keep a gratitude list and make a list of the things that you're truly grateful for. And you might be surprised at how long your list is. Instead of looking, at the other side of the fence, be grateful for what you have. And I think that's a real significant part of being content. I'm going to close with one last quote. And I just thought it was kind of funny related to this topic. And it's, you don't have to worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore. They've died of exhaustion. So, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thanks, y'all, for coming.